Hi, good day. This is Chef Ivory, Chef Instructor for De La Salle College of St. Leo. So today we're going to learn about plating applications. This is about my experience both as chef and as client herself. So first off, we're going to have to match the theme of the restaurant with your presentation. I'm going to give you a few examples. If you're dining in an Italian restaurant, which is known as a family restaurant, serving pizzas, big items such as rolls, etc., etc., you don't want to plate your dishes or as small as it gets. You don't want to plate it pea-sized amount of tiny foods of everything because it's meant to be shared as a family. Before it's the same thing, it's vice versa. If you're doing degustation and you have 10 sets of meals or whatever, you don't want to give them a fulfilling or overwhelming amount of food. So that's number one. Number two, we're going to have to talk about your choosing of plates. So in here, I have two sizes of plates. In comparison, I can do two things. I can serve salad with this one or any appetizer. And choosing the right size really makes a lot of difference. You have to consider the texture of the food and the temperature of the food. Also the sensibility of what you're going to put in here. An example, I can put an appetizer in here or a salad and I can mount it and make it as big as it can. Of course, it will be nice because the food will appear so much bigger and much more appetizing. But in here, tend to spread the salad much wider or the appetizer. Now, when I'm saying not just about aesthetics, you have to consider the food. Now, when you lay your cold salad in a much wider plate, chances are the temperature will go down faster. At the same time, the salad will not look fuller. It will look a little bit more wilted as usual because there's no height. Now, at the same time, you tend to put a lot of dressing when your plate is wider. So when you do that, the problem is when you try to fork everything or when your client wants to get a little bit of everything, you tend to drag all the salads and everything all to the side just to get a little bit of that flavor or that texture. So you drag. Instead of getting all the mound, everything, you have to get, oh, there's a little bit of sauce in there, there's a little bit of crunch in there. So you drag and all your salad crumbles. So believe me, choosing the right plate will be a very good thing to start with. I also love serving in this kind of plates. Bowl and a plate combined into one, but which would make your soup much more appetizing because of how wide it is. Now, of course, this is a classic one, which in the soup will be much more concentrated and much higher. So it means that it will hold the temperature much longer. And of course, when it comes to soup, it has to be warm all the time. So make sure that when you choose the right plate, it has to be a little bit higher than usual and it should hold the purpose. So knowing the right tools, I bet you are familiar with all of these things already. So I'm going to reintroduce you to it because some of us, of course, not only you as a professional or as a student, but maybe homemakers that are watching right now will also appreciate it. So we have a remold in here. So this comes in all shapes and sizes. I just chose this one because it will go well in my plate. So you can have a smaller one, even a wider one. So what you can do in here, you can put it in the middle. You can mount the salad in here just so you will have a little mold so it will stay in the middle. Or the second one, you can use it as a shaper or a cookie cutter. You can put a little bit of oil on the side so it will be much cleaner when you lift it up. Now, I know you have a spatula, but use the right tools for the proper plating technique. Why? Because a smaller spatula will hold the meat more delicately and put it into place. If you use a wider one, tendency are you're going to break the whole thing. Okay, so of course in here you have a melon baller. It's not only for summer coolers or everything, but you can also use it for vegetables, eggs, etc. or even transferring tiny bits of everything and push it on the hole. You have a lemon zester in here. You can use it for butter, not only for lemon peels. You can use it for zucchini peels. You can use it for potatoes. And you can fry them up and you'll have a crispy topping for your food. Okay, so this is our humble sifter. It's not only for your pancit canton. So you can put your paprika, powdered sugar, not only for the appeal for the eyes, but also for that final taste that you want your client to experience first. Now, this whisk is actually, if you notice, this is a balloon whisk, which aerates the sauces. It breaks the sauce right before you serve it because some sauce tends to clump or it tends to be too thick when you're about to plate it. So you can do it like that. Also for this one, it's a smaller type of whisk. It breaks the sauces, but also it incorporates a little air and it's much more better because it's concentrated in here, unlike the balloon whisk. This is another kind of spatula, just called your offset spatula. So this also serves not only for your icings or everything, but also it can use as a more delicate way to put your food into the plate itself. So after that, when you're actually using garnishes, not only for plating, you have to make it sensible. Now you have to make sure that you follow KISS or KISS. Keep it simple and sensible. Yun. KISS. We have oils in here. So oil should not be just olive oil. You can infuse a lot more flavors in there. For example, you can have paprika oil, roasted tomato oil. This is basil oil, for example. You can use parsley oil. So these are infused oils which you actually learn online, or you can infuse them yourself. Now, if you notice, there's a trend right now which is edible flowers. Make sure it's really edible and you get it from your reputable suppliers, not just from your garden. And make sure it's pesticide free. So you have a lot of edible flowers in here. The most perfect example is this blue pea flower. So this gives a natural hue when it comes to making juices or teas. You also have tiny daisy, you have your fresh herbs, your go-to cola. Now, this is the perfect timing where you use your magic tweezers. Final touches can also include burning or torching your food. It makes it that, you know how we like those charcoal bits, you know, it kind of makes the food more caramelized and makes it more appealing to the eye also. So duck liver or goose liver is a very expensive dish. What I want to point out right now is when you are about to serve a very expensive dish, it has to be the star or the highlight. You have to highlight what is the most expensive part and not overwhelm things with other garnishes. As you can see in here, I have a few set of things in here. I have the gelée and then the grape. I can just cut 3 things and it will all look different. This is vertically, horizontally, and even upright. I can make the grape stand up so I can create height. At the same time, I can do it for flat lays. Now we're gonna try to plate this thing. I want to show you 2 things, you know, what makes it different if I'm gonna do a flat lay versus with height. When I have a large plate, I love following the lines. It makes the plate much more longer. So I'll just make a here and the line. The line makes it good. Okay, a quick tip for this one is you have to move really fast. And even if you make a tiny spill, avoid cleaning it up with your finger or tissue. I'm gonna assemble a simple salad here. I'm gonna add the oil. It already has its citrus flavor, etc., etc. I'm gonna use this one, ringo, just for me to get a guide on how high I want my salad to be. So I'm gonna lift this up now, the mold. As you can see, it's more of a guide on where the salad should stay. So I'm gonna put my grape in here. Of course, I tell you, I don't want the salad to be the center of attraction. I want my foie gras to be the star. So I'm gonna put a little bit of lifter in here by using a different cut of grape. Then I'm gonna use this, okay? So there's a little lift and there's a little angle. And then what I have in here is a gelée, which is very delicate. So I'm gonna use this spatula to lift it up and put it inside here. Now what I'm trying to accomplish in here is that I'm assembling it not only to make height, but I want to suggest how the food should be eaten. If I put the bread on the side, they will think that this bread is part of a crouton of the salad. But what I want them to know is that this baguette is actually just a vehicle for the ultimate star, which is our foie gras. So imagine a very expensive meat laid on top of the bread like that. And see, they're about the same height. I have the line in here, it kind of elongates the plate some more. Now, this is already good as it is. I think it needs a little bit more. So I'm gonna add a little bit of the balsamic vinegar. Now, when it comes to appetizer, you have to consider everything. This is the part wherein you have to introduce a lot of things. Temperature, texture, all things that foods should have, or the story that you're going to follow. So I'm gonna put a little bit of this one in here, so it will drip a little. Let it drip. Now I can start adding things. Now, If I put a very pretty flower in here, it's gonna distract you from eating my very expensive foie gras. So I'm gonna put something just as delicate. If also you're gonna use flowers or fresh herbs, the best way to use this as garnish is using it in appetizer or something as delicate as a foie gras. And then for the crunch element, so you already have your greens. So this is my basil oil. The pop of color makes the whole dish stand out. Okay, so this is more of a flat lay. For our plate number 2, I'm gonna do something that gives them more height. Also, you have to consider the timing of your dish. You have to plate that cold salad in contrast with a very warm foie gras. This time, we're gonna try to make it really, really fast and effective as a chef. Ready? Let's go. So you can compare the two now. You have a much more flat lay on a bigger plate and also something that is more mound or smaller one, but makes it look much more fuller and appetizing. If you think earlier that this was good, I think this is much better because of the plate that we used. It made it look bigger and appetizing and actually meant for sharing. For a second dish, we're gonna do a fish dish again. We're gonna do sea bass. I'm gonna use a large plate with a very shallow center. I wanna show you how I put on sauce delicately on a very expensive fish. As you remember, you're gonna have to have a palm size of your meat or your protein. So for me, I have about a palm size of my sea bass in here. A little bit more of our mashed potatoes or pompire. Now I'm gonna show you the beauty of having a monochromatic theme. So everything is mostly green and white. Why? Because I want the whiteness or the flakiness or the smoothness of the sea bass to stand out. Okay, so I'm gonna start with a sauce. I told you I like to use everything you can find in the kitchen. So for this one, instead of me using a squeeze bottle or some fancy thingy, I'm gonna use a normal coffee creamer for my sauce. So my sauce will be flawless. So instead of ladling it one by one in here, I want to pour it all at once. It gives showmanship also. So I'm gonna start off with my mashed potato. This will be my base. I'm gonna put a mound. Now this will act again as a glue. So I want to showcase the beauty of this white sea bass. You have two things going on here. This showcases on how well you prepare the dish. So first you have a very, very good crust and also the evenness of the cooking, and it shows your knife skills. So I'm gonna put it in here. Make sure that you give it a little pinch so it will stay there. And then just pour the sauce on the side. Make sure it's really warm. See? No mess, no fuss. Instead of you ladling the spoon, etc., etc. A very common thing, very helpful. Now, a little help from gravity. Then give a little swirl, even a little tap to make it much more even. As you can see, you have to work really fast. Look how elegant it is. Very, very elegant. No garnish, just the food. Sea bass as a star. Now we're gonna put stuff. Your vegetables, you have to have your greens. So when you're garnishing with purpose, do not forget, of course, dill actually has a purpose. It goes so well with the fish. Something that's very monochromatic, add a little bit of basil oil again. So again, the oil serves two purposes, adds color, at the same time, since it's basil oil, it adds another flavor. So again, how long did that take you? Look, it's like a really beautiful pond. And this is my sea bass. So we're gonna start off with our mashed potatoes, which I put in a very humble Ziploc bag. I'm just gonna use this as glue or my base, because our actual start for this one will be a character here. You can use the spatula to make it a little flat. So we don't have that much fancy garnishes here, but the actual starch or the actual ingredients itself. So I'm gonna use shimeji mushrooms. The trickiest part with bone-in steaks or anything is it has bones. But this one we're gonna turn it to an advantage where instead of using things that will hide the meat or use other props to make it go high, we're actually gonna use the bone to make it stand up. So this is served familia style. So you have 2-3 sticks in there. We're gonna add a little mushroom because some are hidden at the bottom. So since it's familia style, you have to have more serving more than usual. We're just gonna add a little bit of tomatoes, you know, to complement the carrot puree. This is what I want to compare. So even if I have an orange flour in here, I will not put flours on something that's very meaty protein. Why? Because this kind of protein, lamb, beef, etc., is very manly. It's not delicate. So flours and so I'm gonna do garnish that actually makes sense. Like what? Mint. Mint goes well with lamb. And then I'm just gonna put something that will make the lamb more succulent. I'm gonna put orange oil this time. Make sure it drips a little from the bone. So something so simple, it makes it more appetizing, makes it more family style because it's bigger, it's more masculine. See? Easy. So for our fourth dish, which is our last dish, this should showcase your professionalism. It should highlight how the meat is cooked properly. At the same time, I will show you one technique that's called fanning. Fanning is when you cut your meat 45-degree angle and then you can lay it out nicely or fan it. So we're gonna start off with your meat in here. We're gonna try to slice it 45-degree angle. This way, you can, boast about how you cooked your meat perfectly. So we're gonna do a familiar style plating in this one. This is a classic. This is a veal Oscar. We have a very young beef in here, which is your veal. I'm gonna put a little bit of sauce in here. Our pomme puree or mashed potatoes. So I'm gonna put my asparagus in here. Using your knife, you can transfer your meat and lay it in here. And of course, we do not forget our sauce béarnaise, which is your version of a hollandaise, which goes well with your asparagus. And then we're just gonna garnish this with some pink peppercorn so it will stand out. And that is it. Showcase your meat. It should stand out, whatever you're highlighting. So that's it, very simple. So Again, this is Chef Ivory for the La Salle College of St. Benil, your chef instructor for today. And this is Mafbex.